They got the star, poor Steelers. There is no chance for the Raiders to get value with this contract. I'm not saying it's a disaster, but this is like buying a Bentley. You may say it's worth every penny, but there's no value with it. You're not getting a deal on a Bentley. This contract is a massive deal for a perimeter player. This only works for the Raiders. If Antonio Brown, for what they paid him, is great for 3 straight years, elevates not only himself but Derek Carr in the offense, stays healthy and happy, and is never disgruntled. A lot of big ifs. This feels like the Raiders are just making stuff up to me. This was not a long-term plan. This feels like they're trying to sell tickets. You know, you can say what you want about the Pittsburgh Steelers. They paid nothing for Antonio Brown for 3 to 4 years. They got him in the 6th round. And then when they had to pay him, they still didn't pay him great. Antonio Brown was underpaid his entire time in Pittsburgh. Then they got rid of him and got 2 picks. Folks, the dream of every general manager in this league is to find a 6th-round player who becomes a Hall of Famer, and then when you actually do have to sign him, you still don't make him a top 15, top 20 paid wide receiver. I'm happy for Antonio Brown, and I think he'll be a nice player for the Raiders. But this deal only works for the Raiders if he is just absolutely happy and healthy and hits a home run for 3 straight years. There's no value in the NFL paying a wide receiver $16, $17 million. The Steelers got a complete deal on Antonio Brown breaking into the league. They still got a good deal with his first big contract, and they let him go, and they get 2 more picks. I'm on that side. Welcome back. My absolute pleasure to introduce a new colleague and a coworker. Reggie Bush has been signed on by Fox Sports. He's going to join Urban Meyer and Brady Quinn and Matt Leinart. I almost said Matt Lauer. And Rob Stone will host. It is the new Fox Saturday pregame show in the fall, 12 Eastern. You're going to be part of what I think is going to be an amazing ensemble of people. You got a Notre Damer. You got your teammate, Maddie. Urban Meyer's obviously, to me, Nick Saban and Urban are the 2 best college coaches in the history of college football. So congratulations. And Fox, you work with the New Orleans Saints, who have a great reputation of treating their players and former players well. I will say the same thing with Fox. Best place I've ever worked. Best management, treat people well. It is interesting. You know, you're going to work with Brady Quinn. He's a Notre Damer. And when I think of you, there's 2 college games I think of. The Fresno State game, where you were like crazy town. And then the Notre Dame game. I watched that game on my couch in Connecticut, and I literally was nervous. When you were in that game, you're 19 years old. Did you understand? Some say it's the greatest college game ever played. Did you get how big it was?
During the game, no. After the game, I felt all the emotions of winning the game. It was one of the only times I actually cried after the game. Just broke down just in emotions because we had put so much into that game and everything leading up to it, and just the way we won, and just knowing that this, you know, at the end of the day, this was one of the greatest games I had ever played in, and I realized that right after the game. And a lot of great players in that game. That was Zbikowski. Hit me in the back right there. You know, obviously Brady Quinn, but it was just such a great game. And, you know, obviously I'm glad we were on the winning side, but I've also been a part of a great game that we were on the losing side, which is the Texas game, you know. And so that's what's amazing about sports, is just that, you know, you can't predict the outcomes, right? And you just never know. And again, like you said, that was one of the greatest games I ever played in.
You know, Reggie, the USC stuff for you did not end on the greatest note. The NCAA. How do you reconcile all of it? Have you ever sat down? I mean, because I know you've talked about it before, but
not really in depth, though, in detail.
Not really in detail.
There would be a time and a place for that, though.
Well, let's address something. When I say USC, you got blowback from fans. You're the most exciting player in school history. You're their Mount Rushmore guy. Then you have the NCAA stuff. A lot of pushback from fans. Now you're going to be a college broadcaster. When I say USC to you today, is there love? Is there anxiety? How do you feel about that relationship?
USC will always have a special place in my heart, because I made so many relationships with players who are still some of my best friends to this day, with coaches who are still some of my best friends to this day. People who still work there at the university who I still talk to, and it was a great place for me. It was a great landing spot. It was truly meant to be. I believe that me going there was fate. I believe that it was meant for me to go there. And I go back to the recruiting trip because I didn't take all my recruiting visits. I had 5, and I only went to Washington was first. I hated it, didn't like it. It was raining and cold. And then I went to USC, and it just felt right. And there was something about the intuition and the feeling in my gut that, this is where I was meant to be. And I committed right there on the spot. And fast forward to a couple years, I was able to win the Heisman Trophy. We were able to play in a lot of great games. I said in college, I said in high school that I was going to win the Heisman Trophy. So this wasn't something that was just on my mind when I got to USC. This was something I was thinking about and I had put out into the atmosphere long before I got to USC. And it is true that words do have power.
Yeah, you're one of the 5 most popular college players of my lifetime. Tim Tebow.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, you were. Reggie Bush, Tim Tebow. I say Johnny Manziel. Vince Young was wildly popular.
Yes.
But you're in a very rarefied air when it comes to that. I want to shift to a couple things.
Yeah.
I want to shift to the NFL. So, there was some free agency when you played, but it is nuts.
It's crazy.
We have the Jets going out and signing multiple players.
Yeah.
What do you make of it? Now, you've been in locker rooms where they bring in a free agent. It doesn't always land well. Sometimes you pay that expensive linebacker. He gets in the room and you're thinking, I'm twice the linebacker. I've been loyal to the organization. And you paid this guy.
Yep.
The Jets brought in 4 players, maybe more. Is that too many free agents?
Well, listen, the Jets got to get better. The Jets struggled last year. I don't know if you watched any of the Jets games, but they were not just one player away. Like, they needed a lot more pieces to that puzzle. And so getting a guy like C.J. Mosley, to me, I don't know how the Ravens let him out the building.
He is a dynamic.
He's a beast. And just looking at the Baltimore Ravens defense, it's not there anymore. They're completely gone. Like, Weddle's gone. C.J. Mosley's gone. Terrell Suggs is gone. Like, I don't know how they're going to survive next year in that division. I picked the Browns to win that division, but going back to the Jets, I like what they're doing. I like the aggressive mentality because a lot of the coaches there were on our Super Bowl team. Greg Williams, Joe Vitt, who's a linebackers coach there. So I'm very familiar with these guys, with their character, with their report, and I know that they're getting really, really good coaches, and that's what they need. They need good coaches. They got good players. They got a good young quarterback like Sam Darnold, who has a tremendous upside and a bright future in the league. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how this Jets team plays out next year because I think they're going in the right direction.
C.J. Mosley's a Pro Bowl linebacker.
Yeah.
Crowder's a tremendously clever, smart veteran slot guy.
I agree.
And they went and got one of the best guards in the league. They also have, I think, the 3rd pick so they'll have Jamal Adams safety, C.J. Mosley linebacker, Leonard Williams up front. Each unit's got a star, and they are probably going to take the Alabama interior lineman Williams. So that will give them another star. So the Jets look like a substantially better player.
They do.
I want to ask you about Kyler Murray.
Yes.
So when you came into the league, I remember what I said on the air. I said, you were a satellite player. I said, I just want to see Reggie Bush in space. Punt return, kick returners. He's not a between-the-tackle 32-carry guy. I'm like, all I know is Reggie Bush will give me 88 yards a game. I don't care how he gets them, but he'll give me 88 yards. Kyler Murray's one of those players. Not big enough for me. Runs a little bit too much. But he just, it's production. He's productive. Are we getting too caught up in his size, or do you think it could play a factor? You played with a small quarterback, Drew Brees.
I played with Drew Brees, who is a smaller quarterback, and I never felt like he was too short. I never felt any time in the game where there was an issue with his height where I couldn't see him. Now, there were a handful of times where I couldn't see him, when I was running like a 5-yard check down, and there was linemen blocking my vision from seeing him, and all of a sudden the ball would just appear out of nowhere. But Drew plays big. He doesn't play like he's 6 foot. He plays like he's about 6'2", 6'3".
His release point.
And his release point is high, right? And so I think for Kyler Murray, all he's been told his whole career, his whole life probably is that he's too short, right? He's too small. And look how far he's gotten to this point now. And you don't win a Heisman Trophy, you don't get drafted in baseball, and soon to be the #1 pick in football by not having tremendous leadership, tremendous work ethic. All the things that he was kind of getting knocked for in the combine where he went and did some of those interviews. To me, talk to the people who know him. Talk to his head coach. Talk to his family. Talk to the players who play with him, because they all say something different. They all say that, no, this guy can play and he makes the guys around him better. And so to me, when I turn on the film, I see a great player, regardless of his size. I see a guy who can create space with his legs, who can extend plays, and extend plays to the point to where he can find open windows, right? Like if he can't sit back in the pocket and he can move to where he can find that open window.
Yeah, and the other thing about Kyler Murray, the one thing I really like, and it's the one thing, Baker Mayfield kind of wore me out with some of his antics, but I always said with Baker, he can't bust because he throws too good a football. When you watch Kyler Murray throw a football, it's like a real football.
Yeah. Like
he puts velocity on it. Guy may be 5'9", but he throws a real NFL football. Finally, and Reggie Bush is here. He is part of our new Fox pregame Saturday college football show, noon Eastern. Urban Meyer, Matt Leinart, Brady Quinn, Reggie Bush, Rob Stone, and who did I miss out on? Nobody. It's going to be a great show.
Yeah,
it's going to be fantastic. I want to ask you about the situation with Russell Westbrook last night. So my takeaway this morning is hockey players are protected by glass.
Yep.
Baseball players and football players by space. The NBA has sold virtually every seat in the building to fans.
Yeah.
They've pushed broadcasters upstairs. They've pushed spot. And I think proximity is a major problem in the NBA, and it's getting worse. When you looked at this, did you side with Westbrook? Was there part of you that understood it?
I understood it 100%, because if football fans were that close to the field, there would be a lot more fights. I promise you there'd be a lot more fights, because I think football fans are some of the worst fans because of the things that they say, because they feel like they're separated enough to where they can literally just say anything.
By the way, it's Sunday. It's not a work day, so those afternoon games, fans come to tailgate. They walk into a stadium lubricated.
And so I side with Russell Westbrook because, for one, fans have gotten to the point to now, especially I've been to a bunch of basketball games where they just feel like they can just say anything to you because they feel like they have an influence on the game, right? And I've always felt like those courtside seats are just too close. Like, I'm surprised that somebody hasn't gotten hurt to the extent of where they're paralyzed, because you see these big basketball players, 6'8". LeBron James is flying full speed at you to dive for a basketball. You can't get out of the way of that. He's 6'8". His length is going to hit about 10 people. So I've always felt like the basketball fans are entirely too close. I think when you look at like college basketball, like March Madness, when I watch, for whatever reason, they're farther from. Oh,
usually, yes.
They're usually farther, right? And so to me, that's the right way to do it, because these fans are too close. You see guys running up to him on the court after games. Like, that's not acceptable. And I think the basketball, they got to be more proactive in this. I remember seeing this picture of Joakim Noah when he was leaving. I think he got ejected from the Miami basketball game. And as he's walking out, there's a picture of a lady who was literally flipping him off. And her finger is about this close to his face as he's walking out of the stadium. And Joakim Noah, people know him from being kind of a fiery guy.
Yeah, big energy.
He just kept walking, and he kept walking straight past the lady. And I'll never forget that picture, because I said to my wife, I don't know if I could have handled it as well as he did in that position, because that was, for one, she was out of pocket, man. I mean, that's just, you can't have that happening and expect a player who was playing in this sport where he's supposed to be aggressive.
And he's already in a heightened emotional space, walking off the floor.
He just got ejected from the game. You flipping him off this close to his face. She's lucky something worse didn't happen.
By the way, the new show you're on is 11 Eastern. I said noon. The game starts at noon. The show starts at 11 Eastern, right before the noon Eastern games. Reggie Bush, Urban Meyer, Matt Leinart, Brady Quinn, Rob Stone. Cannot wait.
I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. I can't wait to help be a part of this show and hopefully help take it to the next level, man. I'm looking forward to it.
We're looking forward to having you. Great to have you as a teammate. Now, Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
All right, so another interaction with a fan, slightly less volatile, was James Dolan getting slightly sensitive about a fan telling him he should sell the team. So he said he was banned and told him he could watch them on TV, and the fan was later escorted out of security. It's not totally clear if he actually is banned or not.
So the owner of a team can't handle that, but we won't support a player who's got a real heckler. All this fan said was sell the team.
Exactly.
So by the way, so an adult, a 65-year-old billionaire can't handle that, and everybody's banging on Westbrook today because he got a little sensitive. Give me a break. I like Adam Silver a lot, but there's a couple of leadership opportunities here. Like, there's a couple of moments now, and I think Adam's a really smart guy, and I'd love to have him on the show. But there's situations here. Adam has always been very pro-player, and he has to be pro-owner. But we got a Dolan situation that's embarrassing, and a Westbrook situation where he needs help. Adam, something's got to be done on this stuff.
And the connecting string here is interactions with fans, right? So obviously everyone is pretty much in agreement that James Dolan is overreacting to being told to sell the team. I think that's within anyone's common sense area of heckling that's not over the line. It's a fan telling him to sell the team. There's nothing inappropriate or personal about it. While I'm not a big, I don't encourage people to heckle, I feel like that's within bounds. What happened with Russell Westbrook is obviously the complete other spectrum of that. But whatever needs to happen to protect players and honestly protect fans, in the case of James Dolan, if you can't say something to the owner without getting kicked out, there's just a huge disparity. I mean, we're showing the interaction with Charles
Madison Square Garden's become a circus.
That was honestly a really sad moment for the NBA. He's a legend in that building, and it was just
that building's become toxic.
It could not have been handled worse. Sticking with the Knicks, Charles Barkley doesn't believe that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are tough enough to play in New York City. He told Sports Illustrated, "You ain't tough enough to play in New York. I don't think Durant or Kyrie are tough enough to play in New York. Kyrie's a very good player. Kevin's a great player, but I'm not sure that they have the mental makeup to play in New York. Those guys are complaining about the media and asking questions. Maybe New York isn't for them."
By the way, New York,
Sports Illustrated.
Can we stop with how tough New York is?
Well, he's referring, I think, to the media in New York and maybe a little bit of the fans, but I'm pretty sure he's alluding to the media.
If you win games in New York, that media babies you like every other place. I mean, come on. I obviously don't agree with this. It's not the same. It's not the same New York that it was when Charles Barkley was playing. When I lived in Connecticut, one of the first things that really struck me from the New York media was how soft they were. Eli Manning has had this protective media shield for a decade. He's been a shot fighter for 5 years.
Well, I do think that the media, not just New York, the media in general will turn on you if you aren't winning games, especially if you're in a major market. I mean, I think we've seen that here in LA. It's a pretty good example of that.
But if Durant and Kyrie were together, they'd win a bunch of games.
Right. But what would the expectations be of them together? It would be championships.
Yes, and then maybe they could
winning a bunch of games really wouldn't be the standard. The standard right now is just to win a bunch of games. The real standard, if Kevin Durant and Kyrie were there, would be to win a championship. So I do understand what he's saying from that perspective. And I think he's talked about Kyrie, and he's kind of alluding to them just being too sensitive. Yeah. And I don't agree with that. I think if they just chose to go to New York, they'd know what they were signing up for. Finally, Serge Ibaka and Marquise Chris were ejected in the third quarter last night after getting into a scuffle on the baseline. Ibaka fell to the floor, attempting to catch a full-court inbounds pass, and they had an exchange of words, and then there were a few punches were thrown, and it got pretty heated pretty quickly.
Oh, yikes. I didn't see that. That was a haymaker. Yeah. Holy moly.
It escalated quickly. Well, Ibaka got a 1-game suspension in January of last year.
Dang.
After he and James Johnson of the Heat exchanged punches. So they're assuming that it's going to be between 3 and 5 games. Toronto also lost another 2.5 games back from the number 1 seed in the East to the Bucks. So
I didn't see that Serge Ibaka fight. Holy moly. That was a big old haymaker.
I think any of the fans wanted to get involved in that one.
Yeah, I think you'd step back on that one.
Yeah.
Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
What's Odell Beckham Jr. like as a teammate? Connor Barwin, who was with the Giants last year, will stop by next and tell us. It's The Herd.